The night sky was as calm as it had always been. Stars twinkled far away, their light reaching Earth after traveling billions of years. But that night, something was different. At first, it was a tiny anomaly, nothing more than a strange flicker on a satellite's radar. Scientists in the Space Research Center brushed it off as static, an error in the system. They were wrong. Very wrong. The signal grew louder. It was a strange pulse, repeating every few seconds. It wasn't like anything Earth had ever detected before. The frequency was unique, as if the stars themselves were trying to speak in a language no one could understand. The team at the center scrambled to analyze it. Dr. Rachel Mills, the lead scientist, stood frozen in front of the monitor. Her heart raced as the pattern appeared on the screen. "This isn't random," she whispered. "This is a message." The message wasn't coming from Earth satellites or space probes. It was from deep within a distant galaxy, far beyond what humans had ever explored. The signal had traveled for millions of years, crossing vast stretches of space to reach Earth. But why now? Why had it waited so long? And who, or what, was sending it? Dr. Mills immediately called in the highest authorities. The room was filled with nervous tension as experts, military officials, and government leaders gathered. The question on everyone's mind was the same: what did this mean for Earth? Was it a message from another civilization? Or was it a warning? Hours passed, and the team worked tirelessly, trying to decode the strange pulse. Then, they discovered something that shocked them all: the signal wasn't just random noise or a message in code. It was a countdown. The numbers were clear, ticking down to zero with each passing moment. The world had only a few days left to prepare. At first, the countdown seemed like a mistake. Maybe it was a malfunction, or someone playing a prank. But as they checked and rechecked the data, it became clear: the signal was legitimate. Something was coming. The government issued a worldwide announcement. People gathered around their screens, listening to the news. "This is not a drill," the message said. "We are receiving a signal from a distant source. We do not know what it means, but preparations must begin immediately." Panic spread quickly. Governments made moves to increase security. Military bases around the world were put on high alert. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to understand the message. Was it a call for help? A sign of an impending invasion? Or perhaps, it was something much bigger, something humanity had never imagined. As the countdown ticked closer to zero, the world's most advanced communication systems were aimed at the source of the signal. A powerful telescope focused on the distant galaxy. It wasn't much, but it was enough to see something unexpected: a massive object moving toward Earth. The size of the object was impossible to fathom. It was larger than any known spacecraft, a shadow drifting silently through space. Dr. Mills and her team weren't sure what to make of it. Could this object be the source of the signal? Was it some sort of advanced alien ship? The world's eyes were glued to their screens, waiting for answers. What was this mysterious object? And why had it waited until now to make its presence known? The alien object, if it was even alien, didn't move like anything humans had ever encountered. It didn't accelerate in the way that Earth's ships did. It simply glided toward them, as if it had always been there, slowly, silently. The countdown was nearing its end. The team on Earth struggled to understand the message's meaning. Time was running out. Could they be ready for whatever was coming? Would the world be able to handle what lay ahead? Or had humanity, in its arrogance, unknowingly triggered a chain of events that would lead to its own destruction? The mystery deepened. Was this an invitation, or something far more dangerous? Why had the signal arrived now? What was the countdown for? And most importantly, was humanity ready to face what was coming? As the countdown reached its final moments, the air was thick with uncertainty. The object in space continued to draw closer. And then, just as the clock ticked down to zero, Earth's communication systems went dead. The signal was gone. The countdown had finished. But the object in space? It was still on course. Humanity was about to face something far bigger than it ever expected. The signal had been received. Now, all eyes were turned to the sky, waiting for the next move in a game they hadn't even known they were playing. The world was on the brink of something that would change everything. And no one knew what that would mean. The world held its breath as the countdown reached zero. There was a brief silence, followed by a collective exhale from every corner of Earth. The skies were still, yet there was a sense of anticipation in the air. The signal had stopped. The countdown was over. But the object? It was still there, growing larger by the hour, silently approaching Earth. Dr. Rachel Mills stared at the monitors in disbelief. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, uncertain whether to continue with their analysis or wait for the inevitable. The object wasn't just getting closer, it was preparing to make contact. But how? What was its purpose? As military personnel across the world scrambled into action, the United Nations declared an emergency. The world's space fleets were mobilized, prepared for whatever the alien presence might bring. With every passing second, the mystery grew deeper. The object, now visible to the naked eye in the night sky, was shaped like a giant, dark monolith, its surface smooth and featureless, reflecting no light, almost like a shadow drifting in the void. Its size was incomprehensible, far larger than anything humanity had ever built. Even from Earth's vantage point, it was impossible to gauge its true dimensions. At the Space Research Center, Dr. Mills watched as her team sent every signal they could muster toward the object. But it did not respond. There was no communication, no sign of intelligence. It simply continued its slow approach, as though it had no hurry, no urgency. Then, at 2:13 a.m., a massive shockwave rocked the planet. The Earth trembled for a moment, and every communication system went silent. Panic swept through the streets, and people took to the skies, running from the unknown. But in the chaos, one truth became undeniable: the object had sent a pulse, a wave that could be felt all around the world. It was an invitation, or perhaps a warning. Dr. Mills' team scrambled to regain control of their systems, trying to make sense of the situation. They ran simulations, compared data from previous space phenomena, but nothing aligned with what they were seeing. Nothing had ever been this large, this mysterious. At that moment, the world's leaders convened in a tense, emergency summit. Military generals stood side by side with diplomats, trying to formulate a plan. "We have no idea what we're dealing with," one general said, his voice thick with tension. "But if it's hostile, we'll be wiped out in minutes." "Or it could be an opportunity," Dr. Mills argued from a remote conference call. "This could be the first step toward an alliance with an advanced civilization. We must proceed cautiously. We don't want to provoke them." The debate raged for hours, but no answers came. The alien presence remained indifferent, unmoving, like an enormous shadow watching over the world. It didn't seem to want anything from Earth, at least not in any way they could understand. And that, in itself, was terrifying. Then, something extraordinary happened. The object stopped. It hovered, just above the Earth's atmosphere. It stayed there, unmoving, as though waiting for something. Or someone. That's when the transmission began. It wasn't the same strange pulse they had received before. This time, it was a voice. A deep, mechanical voice that echoed in every language spoken on Earth, from the United States to the most remote villages. It was not a translation, it was as if the voice understood every language, every culture. Humanity, the voice boomed, cold and distant. You are being tested. You will either join the galaxy or be wiped from existence. The words hung in the air, heavy and impossible to ignore. The world's leaders went silent. This was no longer just a message, it was a demand. The voice continued, its tone never changing. You have one chance. A test of strength. Prove yourselves worthy, and we will accept you into the galaxy. Fail, and you will perish like so many before you. The transmission cut off as abruptly as it had begun. The object remained in place, watching. Waiting. Dr. Mill's mind raced. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. A test? What did that mean? What kind of test could humanity face that would determine its future among the stars? On Earth, fear turned to anger. People were no longer asking who the aliens were, they were asking why they had come. What did they want from humanity? The demand for a test of strength stirred something inside humans. They weren't just going to roll over. They were going to fight back. We will not be intimidated, one government official declared in a live broadcast. Humanity does not bow to threats. Across the globe, protests and demonstrations erupted. Some stood firm in their belief that Earth should reject the aliens and their challenge. Others, however, took a different approach. We can't just ignore them, they said. This is our chance to prove ourselves. The world was at a crossroads. Fear and hope clashed like thunder in the minds of every citizen. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to talk. And still, the alien object hovered above them, silent and waiting for humanity's next move. As the sun began to rise on Earth, a final message appeared across all of the world's screens, spoken in the same mechanical voice. The clock is ticking. Humanity, you have 3 days to respond. 3 days. Only 3 days to decide the fate of humanity. In that brief moment, every person on Earth felt the weight of the question, was humanity ready for this test? Could they meet the challenge ahead? Or would they, like so many others before them, fail and disappear into the darkness of the universe? Time was running out. The world was in chaos. The alien message had stirred fear, confusion, and anger across the globe. People were divided. Some demanded immediate resistance, ready to fight back against an unknown enemy. Others, less sure of what the aliens wanted, called for peace, believing this could be the beginning of something greater, an alliance with a more advanced civilization. 3 days. That's all the aliens had given humanity to respond. But what was the right response? How could Earth prove itself worthy of joining a galaxy that had watched humanity grow from a fledgling species to something that now threatened the very fabric of the universe? Dr. Rachel Mills stood in a crowded conference room, staring at the new data that had been flooding in from across the globe. The alien object remained in place, hovering just above Earth, its shadow stretching across the continents. Every nation was scrambling to come up with a plan, but no one had any answers. No one could figure out what the test of strength actually meant. Was it military power? Strategy? Something else entirely? One thing was certain, humanity could not afford to fail. The tension in the room was palpable as the United Nations convened for an emergency meeting. Leaders from all over the world joined via video conference, their faces a mixture of fear and determination. They were all too aware of the stakes. A failure to respond correctly could result in their destruction. But a hasty or wrong decision could also mean the same. "We don't have the luxury of time," said President Laura Williams, her voice calm but filled with urgency. "We have 3 days, and we have to make a decision now. Do we bow to them, or do we show them that humanity is not afraid to fight for its survival?" A general in the room, his uniform crisp and stiff, stood up, his expression fierce. "We can't be sure what this test involves, but we know one thing: these aliens are powerful. They could have destroyed us already, but they haven't. They want something from us. We have to show them we are not a threat to be taken lightly." Dr. Mills shook her head, her mind racing with possibilities. What if the test isn't about military strength? What if it's about something else? Something that makes us unique: our creativity, our ability to adapt, to think outside the box. The room fell silent. It was a bold idea. Could humanity pass a test that didn't involve brute force, but instead relied on the very things that made humans different from every other species in the universe? Then, in the back of the room, a young military strategist named Commander Jason Cole spoke up, his voice sharp and decisive. "What if the test is about leadership? Humanity's ability to make decisions under pressure? We need to show them that we can lead, that we can unite despite our differences. If we can do that, we might just pass this test." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was the best chance they had. President Williams nodded. "Then we'll do it. We'll unite humanity, not with weapons, but with a show of strength in unity and leadership. But we need to act fast." In the days that followed, a plan was put into motion. Governments around the world set aside their differences, coming together for the first time in history. The military prepared its defenses, but the focus wasn't solely on weaponry. They also trained diplomats, scientists, and leaders in communication and negotiation, all with one goal in mind: to prove humanity's worth. As the clock ticked down, the world watched with bated breath. The alien object above Earth remained silent, unmoving, as though it were waiting for humanity to make its move. Then, on the final day, when the world was on the brink of despair, humanity made its boldest move yet. President Williams, standing before the world's cameras, addressed the alien presence with a speech that would be remembered for generations. "To whoever watches us from the stars," she began, her voice steady and strong, "we are not like you. We have not seen the universe the way you have. But we have something you do not: the will to survive. The courage to fight for what is right. We stand here, united, not as individuals or as nations, but as one species, humanity. We will face this test, whatever it may be. And we will do it together." The words echoed across the world. In that moment, humanity had made its decision. No longer would they cower in fear. They would face the unknown with resolve, showing the galaxy that humanity's strength wasn't in its weapons, but in its unity and its will to persevere. As President Williams finished her speech, the alien object above Earth began to move. It wasn't a sudden rush. It was slow, deliberate, as though the alien intelligence was considering their response. The object moved closer to Earth, its massive shadow casting an eerie glow over the planet. Then, a final transmission came through, a voice as cold and mechanical as before, but with a hint of something else, perhaps admiration, perhaps something more unsettling. You have made your choice. Now, humanity, the test begins. The transmission ended. The world stood in stunned silence. What kind of test would humanity face? And would their bold move be enough to survive it? The fate of the planet rested in the hands of those who had chosen to face the unknown. And now, the real challenge would begin. The world had been holding its breath for days. President William's speech had echoed through every corner of Earth, a statement of defiance and hope. Humanity had made its choice to face the unknown, united and unafraid. But still, there was no answer from the alien entity above them. The object remained suspended in the atmosphere, as silent and unyielding as ever. Then, just as the tension seemed unbearable, something unexpected happened. It wasn't the alien craft that moved, but something from beyond the stars, another ship, much smaller, yet still far more advanced than anything humanity had ever imagined. This new ship appeared seemingly out of nowhere, emerging from the darkness of space at incredible speed. It didn't announce itself with blaring messages or a booming voice. It simply arrived, slipping into Earth's atmosphere with the grace of a shadow. At first, Earth's defenses were on high alert. The world's military prepared for the worst. Was this an ally of the first alien craft, or had the situation taken another turn for the worse? Could it be an invasion? But as the mysterious ship descended toward Earth, its intentions became clear. It wasn't hostile. Dr. Rachel Mills was the first to identify it, her heart racing with recognition. This wasn't just another unknown ship, it was different. Unlike the massive monolith-like ship above Earth, this new ship was sleek, its shape more organic than mechanical. It resembled the designs found in some of the oldest human myths, with sweeping curves and flowing lines that looked as though it had been built for speed rather than intimidation. The new ship hovered above the world's military bases, but it didn't engage with Earth's defenses. Instead, it sent a single, simple message to Earth's communication networks, speaking in a voice that, while strange, was calm and soothing, almost familiar. We come in peace. Humanity, we have watched you. You have been chosen. The voice wasn't cold or mechanical like the first alien transmission. This one had a warmth, a sense of understanding. And yet, it was still laced with authority, an authority that hinted at knowledge and power far beyond Earth's comprehension. Chosen. President Williams said aloud, her voice thick with uncertainty. What does that mean? Dr. Mills immediately began scanning the message, trying to find any clue that might reveal the true nature of this new alien species. But before she could analyze more, another transmission arrived from the mysterious ship. You have passed the first test. But your real challenge begins now. We are not the ones who will test you, but we can help. We will show you the path to survival. The room fell silent. The world was shocked. Who were these new aliens? Why had they chosen to intervene? Why had they waited so long? The transmission continued. We are known as the Eldran, an ancient race. We have observed humanity's rise from afar, and we have seen your potential. The first test you faced was not of your strength or your weapons, but of your spirit. You passed it. And now, we offer you our help, for we believe that you can change the fate of the galaxy. You are the key to a larger war that will determine the future of the stars. The message sent shockwaves through Earth. An ancient race, watching humanity from the shadows of space, had just declared their belief in humanity's potential. But why? And what war were they talking about? At the same time, the massive alien ship, the one that had demanded the test, remained motionless in the sky, as though watching Earth's response with interest. Dr. Mills turned to the screen, her mind racing. "The Eldran," she said softly. "They've been watching us all along. But why help us now?" President Williams, still trying to process the weight of the situation, spoke up. "If the Eldran believe we are the key, then we have no choice but to accept their help. We don't know what the first alien ship wants, or why they've come, but we do know that humanity is at the center of something much bigger than ourselves. And we have to be ready for what's coming." The world's leaders met in an emergency summit. Every nation was now faced with a decision they never expected: should they trust these new aliens, the Eldran, who claim to believe in humanity, or should they remain cautious and focus on preparing for whatever the first alien ship might bring? The debate was fierce. Some believed that Earth should rely solely on its own strength and refuse outside interference. But many others saw the Eldran as a necessary ally in the unknown battle that lay ahead. The decision was made swiftly. "We accept your offer of help," President Williams declared to the world. "We will stand with you, Eldran. Whatever the war is, humanity is ready to fight." The transmission from the Eldran ship flickered to life once again, this time with a sense of finality. "Very well. Prepare yourselves. The true challenge begins now." And then, as quickly as it had come, the mysterious Eldran ship vanished back into the stars, leaving Earth to process the enormity of what had just happened. As the alien ship faded into the vastness of space, Dr. Mills looked up at the stars. It was hard to believe, but humanity was now part of something far bigger than they had ever imagined. And just as quickly as their questions had multiplied, new ones arose. What was the war the Eldran spoke of? And why did humanity hold the key? One thing was certain: this was only the beginning. The unexpected ally had arrived, and now, humanity had to face the true test ahead. The world had never felt this alive or this uncertain. Humanity, once isolated in its small corner of the universe, now stood at the center of something far larger than anyone could have imagined. With the mysterious arrival of the Eldran, an ancient alien race, humanity had taken its first step onto the galactic stage. But what did that mean for Earth? What was the war that the Eldran spoke of? And why was humanity chosen to play such a pivotal role? As the days passed, Earth's governments and military forces prepared for whatever came next. The global alliance that had formed in response to the first alien ship remained intact, with nations putting aside their differences in the face of the unknown. But the uncertainty was overwhelming. No one knew what the true enemy was, or how to prepare for the war that lay ahead. Dr. Rachel Mills stood in the Space Research Center, monitoring the vast amounts of data flowing in from across the globe. The Eldran had promised to help, but their methods were cryptic, leaving much of the burden on humanity to figure out. They had given humanity the knowledge to build advanced weapons and defenses, but what they hadn't provided was the full scope of the galactic war that was about to unfold. What was this war, and why had it started? Why had the Eldran chosen to reveal themselves now? The massive alien ship, the one that had first sent the signal and demanded the test, still hovered in Earth's atmosphere. Its presence was a constant reminder of the threat humanity had narrowly avoided. For days, the world held its breath, unsure if the aliens would finally make their move. And yet, despite the growing tension, nothing had happened. It was as though the ship was waiting for something, watching humanity's every move. Then, one fateful evening, the voice returned. It wasn't the Eldran who spoke this time, but the cold, mechanical voice of the alien ship that had threatened Earth. It echoed through every communication system, filling the airwaves, the televisions, and the radios. The world went silent as the voice filled the room. "Humanity," the voice boomed. You have shown resilience. But resilience alone will not save you. You are now a part of a war much older than your species, a war that has consumed entire galaxies. You will either submit, or you will be erased. The choice is yours. The message sent a wave of panic across the globe. What was this war? Why had it taken so long for the aliens to reveal their intentions? And why had humanity been dragged into it? Dr. Mills stood frozen before her screens, her mind racing. "This is bigger than we ever imagined," she whispered. "This isn't just about us. This is about the fate of the entire galaxy." As the voice cut off, the ground seemed to shake beneath their feet. It wasn't a physical tremor, but a sense of impending doom, a weight hanging over the world. The alien ship above Earth remained silent, as though it were waiting for something, waiting for humanity's response. President Williams stood before a global audience, her face stern but resolute. "We will not bow to threats. We are humanity, and we will fight to protect our world and our future. We will face this war together, united." Her words resonated with people all over the world. The fear that had gripped humanity began to shift into something else, something powerful. Hope. Courage. Humanity had been tested, and they had chosen to face the unknown, to stand firm against whatever came next. The following days were a blur. Humanity's forces, now united and armed with Eldran technology, began preparing for the war ahead. But the question remained, who were the true enemies? And how could they fight something that had already decimated entire galaxies? Then, at the moment when it seemed the world couldn't take another step, the Eldran returned. The sleek ship that had first appeared above Earth re-entered Earth's atmosphere, its arrival silent and swift. The voice of the Eldran spoke once again, calm and steady, but filled with an undeniable authority. "You have made your choice. The true enemy has come, and the war begins now. But remember, humanity, this war is not yours alone. You are part of something much bigger. Your fight is our fight. Together, we can end this." The message was clear: humanity was no longer alone. The Eldran were ready to fight beside them. And together, they would face the war that had been brewing for centuries, a war that would determine the fate of the galaxy. In the days that followed, the first wave of the galactic conflict began. The alien fleet that had threatened Earth, now revealed to be part of a much larger coalition, moved forward with a force that shook the stars themselves. But humanity, armed with the knowledge and technology shared by the Eldran, wasn't ready to go down quietly. In the skies above Earth, humanity's warships took flight, ready to defend their world and join the Eldran in the fight to stop the galaxy-wide conflict. Their ships, massive and powerful, were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, gleaming with alien technology, but still unmistakably human in their design. They were a symbol of humanity's resilience, of their determination to survive and thrive, no matter the cost. As the first battle of the galactic war raged above Earth, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. And humanity, once a fledgling species on the edge of the universe, now stood at the forefront of a new era, a new chapter in the history of the stars. The test was over. Humanity had passed it. And now, the real fight had begun.